Are you ready to break free from hesitation, self-doubt, and isolation? Do you want to lead with confidence, build powerful connections, and live boldly? I'm Corey Baum, and I'm here to share the most impactful strategies and mindsets that I've learned through coaching, leadership, and real-world experience. Together, we'll forge unshakable confidence, master social dynamics, and create a life rooted in purpose, brotherhood, and bold action. Inside, you'll get the tools and insights to become the strongest, most connected version of yourself. Let's dive in. Okay. Hey, welcome to the show today. I've got a really good friend of mine joining, somebody that I'm really grateful that he's here to share his powerful story. Today we're going to be talking about his journey into sobriety, what that path looked like, and how community and connection played a part along the way. He's someone that I really respect a lot for his choices and his journey and all of it. And what I love about him most is that his honesty with both his struggles and his growth along the way. My hope here today is really that this conversation gives you a glimpse of what's possible when a man chooses to change and the role that brotherhood plays in making that change. So, Andy, man, thanks for being here. And I'd love to just kind of start with what did life look like for you before sobriety?
Well, great opportunity to be here. Really love to talk to you and share this because you were part of my journey, Corey, a really big part of it. I guess, my relationship with alcohol was never great. As a teenager growing up, I fell into, 16, 17, partying every weekend, and not really looking for a fun time, but a fun time with alcohol was always mandatory to me. And as I went through my adult life, it was the same thing. It was always not, what am I doing this week? It was, what am I going to do this weekend and what am I going to drink? And to be completely honest, in 2019, family and kids, my ex-wife came to me one night and said, I don't love you anymore. Brought my world down. A few months after that, I fell down and tore my rotator cuff. And then about a month after that, I didn't lose my job, but I was brought down a level at work. And 2019 was just a terrible year for me. And I saw the demons creep in. It got to a dark area that I was drinking to get through the day. It didn't affect me at work, so to speak, and it didn't affect me so much that I couldn't do anything without alcohol, but it was just something that soothed me. I got home from work and I had a beer. I had a couple of beers, and that put me to sleep, and that made me feel comfortable, and that was how I hid from being the shame of a relationship failing and the sadness and spending every day with your kids as they're growing up, and then one day you're sitting in an apartment by yourself. It's a real, and I'm not the only one that goes through that went through something like this. However, it just brought me down, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror, nights before going to bed, and not liking the man that I saw in the mirror. And what started the journey was, starting to look at podcasts and listen to podcasts about health. And I started a little journey on, I tried a couple of different things with working out, with some challenges, the 30 days no alcohol and things like that. But I'd do them and then I'd fail, right? And then I'd be back, feel terrible that I failed that one time, and then it would send me right down into that spiral again. But I started listening more and more to podcasts, and I tried something crazy, which was 75 hard. Some of you might know what that is. It's a 70-day program, a 75-day program without alcohol, a lot of physical stuff, a lot of things that you have to check off the boxes. And throughout that journey, I came across a podcast about being a father, and about a group of men together that were trying to better themselves, trying to better their relationships and better their finances and better their physical stuff. And I started listening to this podcast, and I started realizing, geez, I'm not alone in the battles that I'm going through. I'm not alone with the relationship issues that I'm having. I'm not alone with being a single dad, and I'm not alone in this alcohol journey. So that was the turning point. I mean, the physical stuff really helped. I really noticed the difference when I worked out and when I was doing some running, that it really helped. And I really noticed what life without alcohol felt like. But there was always one of those things that would just click and it would send me back down. The car just turned into the beer store. The car just, it did it magically after a difficult day at work. And I got I joined a men's group, online men's group, and got into it and realized just that there are men out there with exactly the same story, worse stories with me. I'm seeing my kids, some of the men that I'd have conversations with, they weren't able to see their kids or maybe once a month, and I had some positive things going for me. And I fell upon a call group that you were in, and in I guess it was right before Christmas. It was Christmas Eve, 2022. I made a pledge to myself, and I made a pledge to everybody around me that I was going to go 2022 with no alcohol. And I didn't know what I was getting into, but I wanted everybody to know. And through the help of obviously my family being around me and understanding, but the men around me was what made it easy. Yeah. I wouldn't call it easy by any means, but the men around me that I could just open up to. And there was a few men in that group that had gone alcohol free for years. And they just let me open up, talk about my feelings, talk about the issues that I was having. And that was the step. When I had an issue, when I had something come up, this men's group helped me with dealing with my emotions in a positive way. Yeah. Figuring out, hey, this is a normal thing. If you just relax, you go for a run, you go to the gym, you call somebody up, this feeling will pass. And that's how I started gaining some momentum with, going alcohol free. So it's one of the first things in my life that I ever accomplished, Corey, to tell you the truth, is that I made a promise to myself that I was not going to drink in 2022, and I didn't. And I'm amazed. It just amazed me that I was able to do it, and that was just from that point on. It was just momentum. So that's a little bit of my backstory. I don't know if you want to dig into any of that, Corey.
Yeah, no, man, there's so many good things there. I'm, I'm really kind of curious. What do you feel like? Because to your point, that this is something that a lot of men struggle with every day. That either different struggles or darker struggles, whatever it might be. But what do you feel like it was for you to have the courage to take that first step and be vulnerable and to show up and to say those sort of things? Was it? Yeah.
I figured out how important my children were for me and the people around me were to me. I figured out through the community that you have to know what your why is. You have to know what your values are. You have to have a reason to put your feet on the floor in the morning and attack life. Yeah. And I realized that I was letting this time with my kids, all three of them, I was letting that kind of slip through my fingers, and not being present and not being a good example. I was always a good dad, but I was never I wasn't a good example at this point. And I mean, everybody has to find their why in life, their reason for getting up in the morning. And what's also something that I realized throughout the process. Geez, I lost my train of thought, Corey.
Well, no. Also, on that point, I mean, one of the things that I talk a lot about with the men that I work with is this concept of like a be, do, have model, right? Of
Yeah.
really identifying who it is that you want to be, right? To your point, to figuring out what that why is, and then going out and doing those things that line up with who it is that you want to be, right? And as a result of that, you end up having the thing, because a lot of times people think that like, hey, if I buy these things, right, then I'll end up being that sort of person that I want to be. If I have these things, right, or if I do these things, if I work really hard, and we kind of go about it backwards. And so really starting at flipping that on its head and really starting from identifying who it is that you want to be, right? Who's the man that you want to be, and then doing the actions that align with that person, right? And it sounds like for you, that was sobriety and such, and getting your health in line and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the first step was health for me, and that was what triggered me to want to get better. And I noticed these little small increments as I went, and I was getting healthier, and I was feeling better, I was sleeping better. But I mean, quitting alcohol was just was the life hack. Quitting alcohol and how it affected me in my daily life was the health was a really important step for me. But that brought on a lot of other changes. That brought on a clarity in my life with the decisions that I was making. I mean, to go into it a little bit further, Corey, is that since I quit alcohol, I mean, my life has done nothing but get slowly better. On a
Yeah.
yearly basis, on a monthly basis, it's getting better, right? And it's one of those things like go to the gym one time and you don't notice the difference, but if you go to the gym for a year, you notice the difference. And what I mean by that is that I've just simply in work, I've gone from being demoted to being promoted 3 times since the day I quit alcohol. I mean, and that is for no other reason is that I am focused in my life. I know exactly what I want to do. I know exactly what I want to achieve. I know exactly what community I want around me, and I make the steps just like you said every single day. I get up at a certain point of the day. I have a routine of the person that I want to be. Dress for success or dress for the position that you want. All those things. That's what I'm trying to do every single day. And that the self confidence that I got from the men behind me, and the fact that I just started stacking these days of alcohol free over and over and over again, and did it living live. I was telling everybody about my journey, and that built so much self confidence. And if I can do this, what else can I do?
Mm.
And not just looking at what could stand in the way, but looking at a big goal, a goal in the future that is achievable. And that was the first thing. The physical part was really good, but the actual fact that I could do this and I can stand and be proud of this, that self-confidence was so helpful to me in other aspects of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that for so many men today, they've lost that aspect of doing hard things, right? And the benefits that kind of come with that. Even for myself, there's different practices and processes that I go through every day. And one of them is getting in a cold plunge every morning. I'm up at 5 a.m. I'm in the cold plunge, and generally, for the most part, I try to get out of it by 5:15, so that I have to get out of bed. Right, there's no like wallowing to the cold plunge, but pushing myself through those times where um, I don't want to do it. Right. And whatever that might be, right. You've talked about 75 hard, right? This sobriety, but the amount, there's a certain level of confidence that comes from taking that action. And to your point, being able to stack those wins, right? Starting off small and little by little, it gains momentum, right? It's like a giant rock coming down the mountain that before you know it, you're just plowing through trees. What do you feel like are some tools and practices that keep you on track?
Discipline is number one to me. I need a set routine, and I stick to my set routine. I get up at 4 a.m. My feet
Mm.
hit the floor. I have a dog that helps me have to get out for a walk, but I run almost every morning. And I set those things in stone. And like you said, I start the very first thing in the morning. I start with gratitude for my day, and we we've discussed this topic, but if you told me in 2019 that I'd be getting up in the morning and writing in a journal and talking about how grateful I am
Yeah.
for the things that I have, I'd call you crazy, you know. But that is something that I do every single morning as I get up and I think about what I'm grateful for, and often write it down and be, you know, and then get on the road with my routine. And I think that that is something that is a non-negotiable. If you want to improve in anything in your life, if you want to reach anything in your life, you have to have non-negotiables, and you need the discipline, you know, because we all know that it's really easy, you know, January 1st, maybe not easy, but it's easy January 1st and January 2nd to stick to something. But when January 30th comes around, you know, do you have the discipline to do it? You know, and I think that you always have to look back on it. I mean, I'm not the youngest guy in the world. I get up in the morning and I'm aching every single morning, but I now have the mindset is even though I'm achy, after I get this done, I'm going to reap the benefits from it. You know, whether it's a physical challenge, whether it's for me, I live in Germany, and as a native English speaker and having to call people in Germany and talk to people in German, that's always a struggle for me. There's always that voice in the back of my head, oh yeah, do it tomorrow. But you know,
Mhm.
going through this challenge and like you mentioned, doing hard things, that simply calling customer service in Germany is a hard thing for me, right?
Yeah, I
When it
bet.
comes to my, you know, when it comes to anything, it's a challenge. I mean, my
Yeah.
German has improved for the in the years that I've lived here, but it's always a hard thing. And whenever I find a hard thing, I really try to, okay, let's get it done. And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's no problem. I check the box off and it's like, you know, that's a win. You know, it's
Yeah.
stacking another win. And no matter how small they are, you know, the wins are so important to, like you said, keep the momentum. Whether it's the momentum of the day that you're in or the momentum of the goal that you're working towards, it takes just doing those little things right every single day. And you know, from what I've learned.
Yeah. So I imagine I'm curious how you know, although, you know, you enjoy it, sounds like really stacking those wins and having the discipline and going out and crushing it. What does it look like for you in the days where you get out of bed a little bit more slowly, or you don't make that phone call, or whatever it might be? Like, how do you navigate that for yourself?
Yeah, I have 60-40 custody with my ex-wife, and the Wednesdays that my kids go off to school and I know that they're not going to be there on Wednesday night when I get back to my place, those are some real difficult days. And they are days that I identify right from the beginning of the day that this is going to be a difficult day. And I notice it's a lot easier on those days for me to skip the call, to say, hey, you know, today's, you know, it's a difficult day, you know, and those are the days that are really dangerous to me from my point of view, is that and I really have to make an effort. And the things that I accomplish on those days, those Thursday and Fridays in my case, those are like, you know, extra wins.
Mm,
But I have to be kind to myself. Yeah. There are
yeah.
going to be days that I'm not going to get that 1% better that I preach a lot of the time. Every day 1% better. There's going to be days that I'm not going to hit it. And what the whole thing is that when I put my head on the pillow, and whether I failed that day or if I lost that day, tomorrow's a new day. And I have a start, you know, when that alarm goes off, my feet hit the floor, I have a new opportunity. Now, that's easy to say, but that's the way I have to frame it in my mind. Yeah, because we all know whatever your habit, whatever your little failure is, you know, one little failure repeated twice could really, you know, send you down in a spiral area. I also have a lot of people around me that I can reach out to. I can simply leave a voice message to one of the guys in my wolf pack, right? One of the guys that I know, and say, you know what, I really screwed up last night. I yelled at my child, or you know, I didn't get my workout in, or whatever the case may be. Oh, I've lost
Oh,
my
hold
signal.
on, I'm coming back. It's me.
Yeah,
It's me. Anyway,
yeah.
so speaking of that, how do you, I mean, it sounds like community has really played a part in your journey, right? Whether it's navigating the bad days, or whatnot. But can you tell me a little bit more about that, like where that is now and your sense of community as in regards to where it was before?
Well, I was lone wolfing it for a long time, living in a different country and, starting a new life in a new country. I didn't have a lot of close friends here. And then with the divorce from my ex, I was kind of on a lone island here. So it was almost an addiction when I got into a community of men and started picking men that really had the same goals as me, or we could really relate to each other, whether it had to do with health or our kids or, healthy lifestyle or alcohol free out lifestyles. And that was really a building block. And as I went through, I understood, and something that I learned throughout this process as well is you are the you are the man that you that you are sorry you are the person that you are the you are the sum of your four best friends, right? Or the
Yeah.
people that you surround yourself. The people that I searched out for men that had the same mindset as me, the same thoughts in life as me, and I stayed with them. And those are the people that I turn to in difficult times and in celebrating. Also say, hey, this is this is what happened today. It was a big win for me today, and I also share the difficult parts. I really think that men don't understand well enough how important it is to talk to people about it, to talk to other men about all sorts of different issues. But that not just to talk to them about it, but to understand you're not alone. And I think that's the way I felt looking back, just 2 or 3 years ago. I felt alone. I felt like I was battling all these problems and all these things all by myself. And I thought that I was the only one going through this stuff.
Yeah.
And the more men that I met and the more men that I spoke to, the more I realized, geez, this isn't so bad. And the more I shared and the more they shared with me what they've learned from the process, and being able to bounce ideas and wins and losses off of other men is just, it's such a gift. And I never realized how important it is. And they don't a lot of the guys are in their 20s, a lot of guys are in their 50s too, but it doesn't matter what age. You can learn from each other in all aspects of your life. And I really cherish the men that I'm around, and I'm looking forward to developing more and more friendships with men as life goes on. Right, I didn't put a real big emphasis on having men as my friends after I got married. I just kind of let everything go, and I went into the whole happy wife, happy life, and kind of let my relationships with men go and saw them once in a while. And now it's a daily basis. Now on a daily basis, I'm reaching out to someone in my friend circle. Just to say hi or to see how they're doing or to check in with them. So it's I couldn't imagine, getting up tomorrow and not having someone to call if, worst case scenario, my dog died for something.
Mm.
I hate to say something like that, but not to have a man to reach out to and talk to about that, it's such a I feel like I'm lifted up every morning by the men that I'm accountable to, if you understand what I mean,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
I've
Yeah.
made a promise. Yeah, I've made a promise to these guys in many cases, in different goals and things that I'm shooting for. And it's not just I'm responsible to me and to my family, but I'm also responsible to these strong men around me to keep moving us forward. So I hope that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, one of the things that brings up to me is that I got goosebumps just thinking about it is that by doing these things and by showing up, right? It's not just about, um, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's also by you doing it, you're giving somebody else the permission to be vulnerable and to share and ask for help and such as well. Right. I remember a time, I don't know, years ago now, it was probably like 23, 22, when I went to the summit. right? And Larry had asked me to go up there and speak about kind of my journey, divorce, right, infidelity, all of that sort of bit. And I had so many men come up to me afterwards and say, "Hey, I thank you so much, man," because I just like you said, I thought that I was the only one that struggled with these sort of things, right? I thought that I was all by myself, and to see somebody get up on stage or to get on a call or whatever that is and speak so openly and freely about it allows them the security in knowing that, hey, I can do this as well, right? If I could see this guy do it, I can do it as well. Right. So it's not just about the way that I see it at times, that it's almost like a in service of sort of thing. So at times it's, yeah, I want to accomplish my goals and I want to do these things. But I also want to show up to these calls and be held accountable and hold other people accountable in service of what that can provide for them. Right. By me allowing them the opportunity to hold me accountable and such, right? It's this like, okay, well now they know that they can bring those sort of challenges to the group and be accountable as well.
Our Thursday night call, Corey, I'll never forget. It was right in the start of my, alcohol-free journey. And I remember the place I was on the call and hearing one of the members share some stories about alcohol. And I realized, that just gave me that, it took the pressure off me to hear another man talk this way about his battles with alcohol and the journey that he's been through. It just, that community of and being able to, I mean, when we have conversations, it's not, hey, how's it going, oh yeah, you see
Yeah.
that game last week. We get right into it. We get right into the, I call it the meat, right? You get right into the meat, and that's okay. And it's okay um, we called it lie in your shit, lie in there and feel terrible and share that terrible feeling. And it's, you need to let that out, you need to let it out, and to have men around you that understand it, that accept it, and not just accept it, say, hey man, that's awesome. That's awesome that you shared that. That's a good point. That's a bad point, but just, that's awesome that you shared it, and encourage it going forward. I mean, I can't. I don't know where I'd be without that Thursday call. That with you fellas in that. That was just such an inspirational and life changing call. The hours that we spent together. So, oh,
Yeah. And I think more and more lately that men are really searching for community and connection. Right. It's
yeah.
just it's ever more pressing now than I feel like it ever has been, right? With technology and all of these things that are kind of have been pulling us apart, that we need it now more than ever. What would you say as a result? Like, how has this affected your other relationships, your relationships with your kids, and obviously like your community and things that you're getting out and doing? But how has this changed for you? The conversations, the relationships, all of it.
I am 100% present with my kids now. When my kids are with me, I'm with them at all times. We have a lot more open conversations about really deep topics. That has changed drastically. Not that I didn't talk to them before, but as they've gotten older, and conversations about my past and my struggles with alcohol and my struggles in the past, I've been completely open with them, and they are now seeing a man that is trying to grab onto life, yeah, instead of kind of letting life happen to them. And that's really strengthened my relationship with my kids, to the people around me that know me well. And I yeah, like, again, the same topic, if you told one of them 10 years ago that I would not be drinking alcohol, they would have laughed in your face. I was always the one with the alcohol. I was always the one, the last one up at night, getting the last beer out of the fridge. um, and that has changed the conversations that I have with people. when I sit down with someone for dinner in a clear mind, and I can have clear conversations with people. It has really affected my confidence level. When I walk into a room now, I feel a lot more confident. Not because I don't drink alcohol. That has very little to do with it, but because of the man that I'm starting to become, or the journey that I'm on, I have a lot more confidence. So people speak to me a little bit different from what I remember. Yeah. Um, as being someone that doesn't speak German, living in Germany, right? Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to understand me, but people speak to me with respect because my shoulders are back. My chest is
Yeah.
out a little bit more, and that affects the way when you walk into a room how people react to you. Right? It's all been a very slow, but when I look back on it, we're coming up to 1,000 days alcohol free. When I look back on the journey, I mean, the way I get up in the morning and the way I interact with people throughout my day is completely different. I'm not hiding from anything anymore. I'm most of the time I'm going directly to maybe not the problem, but I'm lured right to trying to solve something, or trying to engage with someone. So, I mean, my colleagues at work, I have good relationships with all of them. Um, and I think that I'm developing and we're going in the right way with my ex-wife as well. That was a very difficult situation, and going from partners to going to parents of these kids. And that is something that's become really important to me as well, is the fact that we are always going to be parents to these kids, and I'm always going to have a relationship with her. And with alcohol in the picture, without any guidance from other men that have gone through this, geez, this could be a disaster, right? It could be a situation that we don't talk to each other. But again, just like many things, they're slowly improving. It's slowly getting to the fact that we can, or to the point that we can have a conversation comfortably as parents, and no longer as two uh, exes, I guess,
Yeah.
or two people that broke up. So it's helped in so many ways, in mostly in emotions. When someone says something that I don't like, or challenges me, or makes me sad, I understand how the emotions affect me, and in communicating with others, whether it comes to my kids and it comes to everybody else in my life, I really seem to deal with it a lot better. I very rarely lose my temper. It's yeah, it's been slow, but it has been a steady improvement.
Yeah. So what do you feel like? I mean, it sounds like everything's amazing, right? Between the community and the sobriety, what do you feel like your future holds from you now versus where it was before?
That's a good question, Corey. That's a really good question. Um, As what I didn't do before is set goals for myself. I didn't. I just tried to get through the day. I was trying to get through the day, maybe not always just to have a beer at the end of the day, but I was just trying to get by. And I think a lot of guys that I know are just trying to get by. They're just trying to get through the workday, punch the clock, get home, get the kids, just going through that daily routine and trying to get by. And since the change with alcohol and the health, I'm trying to enjoy every day. So that's my goal, is to enjoy the present moment, like talking to you right now. I mean, what a great opportunity this is for me to have a chat with you. But try, and then from this point, what am I going to do next on a daily basis? But I also have goals that I want to achieve. I have my to-dos for the day, I have my to-dos for the week, and then looking into the future, running goals. I have, financial goals. And I think setting those goals, I mean, you hear it all the time, but writing them down and having them in front of you when I open up that book every morning, those reminders are there for me, and this is what I'm going for. So I think, not to share really the goals with
No,
you,
no, you're
but I think
fine.
it's really important that I have these goals set out for me on a daily, weekly, yearly basis. Where am I looking in 5 years is so important. And, that mindset of how is today going to be your best day, to use the cliche, how are you going to get a little bit better today, is so important. And I think very often we wish days away. We just want this day to be over. We just want to get into our
Yeah.
bed, and then the next day comes and it's like, oh God, here comes the next day. And if you don't have something to wake up for, and to bring this back around, if you don't have a why, if you don't have a reason for those feet to hit the floor and go, you know, what is there in life then, right? If you don't have a reason to get up, why get up? Why not hit the snooze again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Definitely. Well, hey, as we start to wrap up here, Andy, what do you hope that other men hear from your journey?
You're not alone. Yeah. You're not the only one going through these problems. Dark, dark nights I shared. Dark nights I shared by myself in this apartment. Luckily, I had a dog, but just kind of pacing around and not knowing what to do. And you just got to take a step forward. Yeah, you just got to take a step forward and reach out. In whatever direction that is. I think it's a great thought is that it doesn't matter how big the step is, as long as it's forward. That's what you got to do. And there are others around you that have been in the place that you're in right now. I guarantee you. And it's so important to reach out to men around you and have these conversations and discuss that and build a community, around yourselves. So I'm getting emotional thinking about this. I'm really, it's been such a big change in my life, and to be able to talk about these things, and I had a couple of flashbacks in this conversation, thinking about the mindset that I had, of what my day-to-day routine was, and what I was looking forward to in the day. It's been such a big change. I think to men out there, it's not going to happen overnight. You're going to go through some really difficult times. But again, if you just take that one step forward, make that one phone call, reach out to that one guy, find a community, and I'm speechless in what it means to me. It's such a great thing that's changed my life drastically.
Yeah. Well, Andy, man, hey, I just want to say again, I appreciate you coming on. Got some feedback in the. Either way, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. It's an honor to have been alongside you during those times and to have seen that. When I was looking at, the people that as you mentioned, the people that I wanted next to me, the people I wanted alongside me, and to have on the show, your name was one of the first that I thought of, right? Just knowing the difference that you made, right? I remember looking back, and we talked about this earlier I remember you in your apartment. I feel like I remember you sitting on the floor with your laptop, right? And I just remember it so vividly of kind of where you're at then, and to see you thriving now, it's just amazing. And it's just a testament to getting up every morning and putting your feet on the floor and finding a community.
Well, yeah, I'm so happy to have experienced those things and to gone through that really terrible time. We talk about avoiding hard things, and for me to just do that hard thing and to hear you and the other men go through the hard things together, that just made it stronger. It did make it easier. It was not easy, but it made it easier to have some men around me at that point, and to see the work that you're doing, Corey, really, and really making an effort building men's community. It's such an important thing that, like you said, men need. And I think men are looking to get involved in these things, and for you to be doing the podcast and be doing the men's group, it, big respect to you, and just keep going, keep pushing forward. As I say, 1%, a little bit better every single day, my man. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
your time.
Absolutely. All right, Andy. Well, hey, we'll wrap it up and we'll talk soon. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Evolved Men podcast. If today's episode challenged you, inspired you, or gave you something to think about, don't stop here. Keep building, keep evolving. Head over to www.evolvemenproject.com, where you'll find free resources on confidence, leadership, relationships, communication, and personal power. Everything you need to start applying what you've learned here and take your growth to the next level. The tools are there. The next move is yours. Until the next time, men, stay strong, lead powerfully, and live boldly.